everywhere you look. Wow. With such energy and invention and creativity. Let me feel. Is it all right to touch it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Everywhere you look, everywhere you look. Did you kind of go, wow, what a building. Wow. Everywhere you look. Wow. Wow. Oh, wow. Wow. I mean, wow.
So
Just amazing.
wonderful. And this especially is where you can see that resonance with the Italian and even Byzantine pulpits of the great Duomos of Italy. And then the Lady Altar is later as well. So this is high Ninian Compa. He loved gold. You've got the Madonna and Child, of course, and then St. Mary Magdalene and St. Augustine again, Augustine of Hippo.
What's the flaming? Is that
His
a flaming bowl?
it's a
or
very
flaming
simple. It's a flaming heart.
Flaming heart.
Yeah.
Oh, I hesitate to use the word cartoony, but
It is meant to be instructive. There is something Sunday school about them in a way. St. Lawrence with his
the gridiron.
gridiron. Probably St. Andrew.
You've got St. Andrew with the cross. Who's the guy holding the cathedral?
Now, is that St. Peter? I think he's got his
Do you
keys.
think it is? Oh, okay.
Here,
as we're going down here, we've got more saints.
Yeah, so
And it's who can you spot, isn't it?
it's an odd mixture, isn't it? So on the left, St. Stephen with his stones.
Yes.
And then it probably would make sense.
He's got rocks in his hand.
Yeah.
Yes.
And touching that he's next to Paul, of course, who was as Saul was present at his stoning.
Yes.
So Paul with his sword, at least traditionally. That's St. John in the middle.
With the cup.
With the cup.
Yes. Not looking the same as the other
No,
Johns who've got
that's right.
But I guess he was a bit older then, so.
Yeah. That is St. Catherine.
Is that? Oh, that's the wheel
I
you're
think
picking
so.
up there.
Yeah. And perhaps Mary Magdalene. It's a not entirely intuitive selection of saints, but and then I wonder is that could be Bartholomew who was skinned alive, holding his knife.
Okay. Yeah, you sometimes see him holding his skin.
Yeah.
There's a very gruesome Damien Hirst.
Oh, but at St. Bart's, yeah. And then, of course, more identifiably the Adoration of the Magi.
Yeah, we've got
the shepherds at the other side.
Nativity.
And then, so the patriarchs and prophets. So the closest to the Lord, John the Baptist.
Yes.
Then I suppose Joseph in the Egyptian headdress.
Yeah, that makes sense.
David, of course, with his harp. So we're patriarchs and prophets, I suppose. So
would Moses be on here somewhere?
Moses is there amongst with the tablets.
Honestly, genuinely, you're doing much better than many. I genuinely walk around with people who've been somewhere for I've been here for 12 years. Oh, now who is that?
the unreliable narrator as a device. Yeah. But again, it would have. I mean, this probably would have been immediately recognisable to those people that he was. These were put up to serve, I suppose. And
do you think is that true? Do you think that I mean, I recognise that people were more connected with the church. They're going there every week, but is the iconography one of the things that people would just have known?
I mean, maybe it's slightly symbiotic in that. Yeah. I mean, they were both. It was both propaganda and instructional, I suppose. So I suppose that the two are connected. I always think about those great windows of the Gothic cathedrals, but many of which you can't really see with the naked eye. There was a much more. We always say that they're to instruct, and that's part of the case, but and certainly became much. I mean, these are often much more visible than and lower down than the great the high point of Gothic. But there was also this sense of the glory of God, and it wasn't for any other purpose than to glorify God in these wonderful details, and even if they had no strictly human purpose.
And then we've got in Isaiah and Malachite,
Oh, well,
where
that's good.
they beautifully written it underneath. Right?
That's handy, isn't it? Enoch, Isaiah, and
Yeah,
Margaret. That's good.
I always want to thank them when they do
Yes, yeah. And likewise in the Jesse window, there's the genealogy of Jesus is they're all handily named as well.
This is later, but directed by Butterfield.
Yes, yeah, very much. This is Augustine of Hippo.
Oh, okay. Is there another one?
So Augustine of Canterbury we have up
okay.
here. So Augustine is the 5th century patristic writer of the Confessions and City of God. Augustine of Canterbury is a little bit later, and he was sent by Pope Gregory to convert the.
That's the
English,
one.
Yeah.
Is he the one who went and then got cold feet and went back and then?
That's right.
And then went
yeah,
again.
Yeah. And then
I love that story.
Edward Confessor.
So he's the guy who built the abbey.
Yeah. Oh. This is the sacristy.
So what's the sacristy used for?
So this is where we get dressed for mass. You see, this is originally hung together as a triptych, although it was noticed in the 90s that they weren't. They were separate pieces that had been joined together later, and so they were separated again. And then a heavily restored 15th century Italian painting there.
But these look period rather than they're not copies.
No, that's real. Sadly that is sort of its value is diminished by the Victorian Restoration, but otherwise would be extremely valuable. This is probably was originally less aesthetically important, but hung in the original Margaret Chapel. So Newman would have seen that with its wings attached originally.
Oh, so this came from the building that preceded the one we're in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that looks like quite an old icon.
Yeah. All my Cyrillics. I'm not gonna embarrass myself by further.
These organ pipes.
Oh yeah.
It looks as though the actual organ is over there. Is that right?
So yeah, the console is over there, and then it's split. It's said to be almost cathedral size so it does make quite an impact. Oh, there we are. You can see. So Andrew Lloyd Webber's father was director of music and an organist here. Walter Vale was a great interpreter of Rachmaninoff. It's not the John Williams that.
John Williams, not that one. Yeah.
And then the console is here. That's where my expertise, if it can be called that, ends.
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot of stops to play with.
Yeah.
But this is a Harris and.
Yeah, that's
Harris,
right.
Yeah, and I think that's a name that sort of goes back a long way.
Yeah.
So many different, and this has even got the buttons on the keyboard underneath.
The boys' school closed in 1970. They supplemented Westminster Abbey Choir at big events, including the coronations of 53, 37, and 1911.
Yes.
So they were a good, pretty smart thing. Laurence Olivier amongst them.
Did he stay connected with the church?
So he was married here, and indeed, the vicar clearly there was a bit of license in there. He was named as resident in the presbytery when he was married, I think, in order to square some alternative domestic arrangements. But Princess Alexandra, as Princess of Wales, was a regular before she was queen. But again, it shows that whilst it was fine while she was Princess of Wales, as queen, this was a bit too outside of the mainstream for the queen to come to.
Okay.
So when Victoria died and Alexandra became queen, she stopped coming so much. But there's a beautiful Ninian Compa pall, black pall, which was used for her requiem she obviously her mass wasn't here, but there was a big requiem mass for her, which we repeated before I was here, but for the late Queen.
So I may have been a tiny bit unfair to Pevsner last week when I said he called the building ugly. He was reporting the word used by the Ecclesiologist Journal, the journal of the Oxford movement itself. So what gives? People in the 60s were too close to Victoriana to quite see the beauty behind the imperial bombast. I think we can be more dispassionate now, dare I say more grown up. But Butterfield's All Saints is dissonant. In a good way. There's this word for the face you make when listening to pleasurably dissonant music, stank face, where you kind of wrinkle your face as if in disgust and go, ooh, that's good. That's how I feel about All Saints. Ooh, it's good.
The architectural historian Sir John Summerson wrote a famous article in his, there's a collection of essays called Heavenly Mansions, and he's got this idea that Butterfield was a proto-brutalist, which was, I suppose, Summerson was writing in the 60s and was quite enamoured by this brutal style. And you can see in some of the flatness of the interior, something of that. I'm not entirely persuaded, but he has a great line that if Walter Scott is represented in the Palace of Westminster on Pugin, then this building is Wuthering Heights, Emily Bronte. It's kind of wilder.
That I feel more convinced by than raw brutalism.
This is it's sort of wild and untamed and pointing to something wonderfully mysterious and above our heads in a way that there is some, despite Pugin's intense design, it's quite a regular building in a sense. You've got various spires and everything, but it's contained within Barry's overall measured and symmetrical facade. Whereas here, I think we feel like we're pointing to something a little bit less contained.